Small modular reactors, SMRs, are garnering a lot of interest these days because of the need to decarbonize electricity systems, transition to, electrify national economies. And the problem is, of course, that there aren't many of them around. It's fairly new technology. And I'm going to be talking to Prakash Sharma, who's the head of markets and transitions Asia Pacific for Wood Mackenzie. Welcome to the interview, Prakash.
Thank you, Markham. Pleased to be here.
Well, look, where are we in terms of the state of SMR technology? And maybe you could at the same time also touch on advanced nuclear technology that might show up in SMRs.
So these technologies are in early stage of developments. There are nearly about 70 designs in different stages of conceptualization, pilot testing, and currently no full-fledged SMR facility is in commercial operation yet, but there are a number of designs, number of countries, including China, Europe, US, are taking lead in developing these technologies. So we expect NuScale's plant in the US could be the first one, which is kind of the full-fledged SMR operation being coming online around late 2020s. But these technologies offer a number of specific advantages over large reactors in the sense that they are supposed to be lower cost, easier to construct, and also with some enhanced safety features, which is also an aspect that Generation 4 reactors or advanced technology reactors that some companies are exploring.
Well, that's very interesting. We have a electrical utility in Ontario, Ontario Power and Gas, OPG, that thinks it can have one online as early as 2028. But you think probably a little later than that, maybe early 2030s before we begin to see more of them, these early stage SMRs constructed?
Yeah, so commercial operation for a number of these SMR facilities that are currently in the design phase, we could see potentially a number of them starting in 2030s. But we expect the NuScale US operation is probably slated to start around 2027. So very similar to in terms of the timeline as OPG in Canada. So as you know, these technologies are relatively new, require a very strict permitting process, safety reviews, and NuScale in the US is probably the first one which has received the final approval late last year in terms of for getting ready for a commercial operation around 2027.
Now, let's talk about cost. You had a levelized cost of electricity in your release at $120 US a megawatt hour. The first time I've seen an LCOE estimate for SMRs. How accurate is that? Is that based on the initial designs, and might we see it lower when they finally come online?
Possibly. So this is based on our proprietary levelized cost of electricity model, where we look at a number of power generation technologies. So typical solar, wind, storage, offshore, onshore wind, hydrogen, and SMR assessment is based on the initial design estimate that we have. We have spoken to a few companies, few operators, but these are early stage. So I would say these are kind of more theoretical at this stage. The actual assessment would be once some of these designs come into operation, especially commercial operations. So it is quite possible that when these plants are up and running, the actual LCOE could be somewhat lower. As some of the design companies have mentioned that they are hoping to bring down the cost to about $65 a megawatt hour. So the potential is huge, but as I said earlier, this technology is currently in design phase. There are a lot of expectation industry has from this technology, and of course the potential is huge. And in fact, in recent years, the focus has shifted more towards companies are thinking beyond solar and wind, because power demand is expanding so much across the world, because electrification is the primary tenet or primary kind of tool countries are looking at to achieve decarbonization goals. So at some point in time, countries do need a stable, clean baseload supply options, and nuclear CCS paired plants, or bioenergy CCS plants, or even hydrogen combustion, or even geothermal plants are some of the technologies that countries are looking at to explore and to help them develop. Because there is a realization that solar and wind alone might not be able to deliver the deep decarbonization in power generation that is needed to achieve climate goals.
One issue that keeps coming up with nuclear in general and questions around SMRs is waste. Now, is the nuclear waste that would be produced by an SMR any different than would be produced from existing nuclear plants?
I think there is a possibility of some of these design concepts that are out there, that they are able to reprocess and use the same waste fuel. So that's again an added advantage. And other added advantage with SMRs is that the enhanced safety features, because the design specifications and the literature that we have reviewed suggests that the possibility of a kind of an accident in the event should it occur is somewhat lower, because the reactor could start cooling on its own automatically. So some of those design features or safety features that have been built into this. But again, these are all design concepts or early pilot stage observations. Unless the actual operations start at a number of operations in globally, I think we can't say with certainty that this technology is here to stay.
Final question for you, Prakash, and that is around hydrogen, because you noted in your release that if the SMRs can get the levelized cost of electricity down to $65 a megawatt hour, then running with electrolyzers full time, that it can produce hydrogen that would be competitive with green hydrogen.
Exactly. So, I mean, the concept of green hydrogen currently is based on say around $20 to $30 megawatt hour solar or wind on an average, and operating at about 50% utilization for electrolyzers. What we are saying is that if SMR cost would come down to say around $60 or so, $60, $65 range, and you can operate your electrolyzers say around 80-90% load factors, then basically you're able to compete with green hydrogen in terms of costing. So I think that's an added advantage that nuclear reactors or SMR reactors might offer. And that is also what some of these design companies and utilities and technology companies are exploring.
Well, Prakash, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.